January 2013. Suvarnabhumi Airport, Bangkok. A young man stands surrounded by police. Handcuffed, cornered, caught. And he is smiling. Not a nervous smile, not a forced smile. A wide, open, genuine grin. The cameras catch it instantly. The photo goes global within hours. Because this man isn't an ordinary fugitive. He's not wanted for theft, not for fraud in the traditional sense. He is wanted for something far larger, for a piece of code that bled almost $1 billion from the global financial system, for a digital weapon that infected tens of millions of machines, for crimes committed not with a gun, not with a mask, but with a keyboard, in a quiet bedroom, half a world away. His name is Hamza Bendelladj. The internet knew him by a different name. BX1. He built one of the most devastating banking Trojans in history. He sold it like software. He profited like a CEO. And when the FBI finally closed in after a 5-year, multi-continent hunt, he didn't run. He didn't fight. He just smiled. This is the story of the architect behind the curtain, the mind behind the malware, the man the world would come to call the smiling hacker. Tizi Ouzou, northern Algeria, nestled in the Kabylie Mountains. The year 2008. This is where Hamza Bendelladj's story begins. Not in a high-tech lab, not at a prestigious university. In a bedroom with a second-hand computer and an internet connection that opened the door to an entire underworld. He was almost entirely. No formal cybersecurity training, no corporate mentorship. Just raw curiosity and an obsessive mathematical mind. He devoured forums. He devoured leaked source code. He devoured the architecture of systems built to keep people like him out. And slowly, methodically, he found the cracks. This was the era of the underground carding boards. Invent-only. Encrypted, hidden in plain sight of the open internet, yet utterly invisible to it. Bendelladj created an alias, a digital ghost. BX1, just 2 characters and a number, but within certain corners of the dark web. That name would soon carry weight. He didn't announce himself as a criminal. Not at first. He announced himself as a student. Someone fascinated by the seams in banking software, the blind spots in browser security, the trust assumptions baked into financial systems that nobody questioned. Psychologically, those who tracked him later would describe a pattern, not malice for malice's sake. Ambition, pride in craftsmanship, a hunger to prove that the systems guarding billions of dollars were built on sand. He climbed the underground hierarchy fast. Within a year, he wasn't just lurking on forums like that. He was respected there, a name traders wanted to do business with. And somewhere in that rise, he crossed paths with a Russian programmer. A coder using the handle Gribo, real name Alexander Penin. Together, they would build something that didn't just break into bank accounts. It would scale. It would replicate. It would become an industry. Its name, SpyEye, wasn't just malware. It was a business model. At its core, a technique called Manhunt. Here's how it worked. A victim's machine gets infected through a phishing email, a malicious attachment, a drive-by download. The malware doesn't just sit there. It waits. It waits for the victim to open their bank's website. And the moment that page loads, SpyEye strikes. It injects its own code directly into the browser session in real time. The bank's page looks completely normal. The padlock icon is still there. The URL is still correct. The encryption is still intact. But underneath, the form fields have been silently rewritten. Usernames, passwords, security question answers. One-time codes, captured the instant they're typed, sent straight to a command and control server, before the bank ever sees a single red flag. This is why it was so devastating. It didn't break the encryption. It didn't need to. It attacked the one weak link no firewall could patch, the human being typing at the keyboard. And Bendelladj didn't keep this weapon to himself. He commercialized it. Investigators would later uncover his price list. A basic SpyEye toolkit, around $1,000. Custom plugins, web injects engineered for specific banks, climbing past 10,000. He built and sold add-ons with names like Spreader, tools explicitly designed to infect new machines automatically. One sales pitch, he wrote, later quoted in federal court documents, promised buyers 200,000 new infected computers within weeks of deployment. He ran his own storefront for stolen financial data, a website called VCC.SC, an automated marketplace. Stolen credit cards, bought and sold like inventory on a shelf. The scale became staggering. At its peak, U.S. investigators estimated SpyEye and its variants infected more than 50 million computers worldwide. It compromised customer data at over 250 banks and financial institutions across the United States, across Europe, across the globe. Total estimated damage approaching $1 billion, and somewhere behind 6 rotating command servers. Machines he quietly relocated from Michigan to Georgia to California to Luxembourg, hiding his digital footprint. Bendelladj kept building, kept selling, kept growing the empire. By 2011, the damage could no longer be ignored. Banks across America and Europe were hemorrhaging money. Compliance teams were drowning in fraud reports they couldn't explain. The common thread, eventually, was always the same 4 letters. SpyEye. The FBI's cyber division opened a full investigation, working alongside private security researchers including teams at Trend Micro, who had begun quietly mapping the malware's digital fingerprints. This wasn't a single hacker working alone anymore. This was infrastructure, a criminal supply chain. And the only way in was to go undercover. Federal agents didn't kick down a door. They built a relationship. Posing as buyers inside the Invitanli forums, an undercover agent made contact with BX1 directly, negotiated, built trust, and in a transaction that would later anchor the entire federal case, purchased a copy of SpyEye for $8,500. That single sale gave investigators something priceless: a verified financial trail. From there, the digital breadcrumbs multiplied. Jabber chat logs, IP addresses tied to his command servers, server migrations that, instead of hiding him, created a time-stamped map of his movements. Investigators cross-referenced server logs with chat handles with email addresses with real-world identities. The ghost called BX1 was slowly becoming a man. By 2012, Interpol had placed him on a global watch. The FBI listed him among its most wanted cyber criminals on the planet. But Bendelladj kept moving, kept selling, kept believing perhaps that the digital distance between Algeria and a federal courtroom in Georgia was distance enough. It wasn't. In early January 2013, flight manifests picked up movement. A passenger transiting from Malaysia. Destination, Egypt. A stopover, briefly, in Thailand. It would be the last flight he ever took as a free man. January 5th, 2013. Suvarnabhumi International Airport, Bangkok, Thailand. Thai authorities, acting on the international alert, move in. Hamza Bendelladj is taken into custody. He does not run. He does not resist. Witnesses say he turns to his family, his wife, his daughter, continuing on without him to Egypt, and simply says goodbye. Then the cameras find him, and he smiles, handcuffed, surrounded, facing what would become one of the largest cybercrime prosecutions in American history. And he smiles anyway. That image splashed across newspapers from Algiers to Atlanta. rewrites the public's image of what a hacker even looks like. Not a hooded shadow. A grinning young man in handcuffs, utterly unbothered by the cameras. The nickname is born almost instantly. The Smiling Hacker. In May 2013, he's extradited to the United States, to the Northern District of Georgia. The same jurisdiction quietly building cases against cybercriminals worldwide. The indictment lands like a thunderclap. 23 federal counts. Conspiracy to commit wire and bank fraud. Multiple counts of wire fraud, computer fraud, and abuse. Count after count after count. Prosecutors estimate the financial devastation in the hundreds of millions of dollars. In June 2015, Bendelladj does something few high-profile hackers ever do. He pleads guilty to all 23 counts. No negotiated deal, no plea bargain softening the blow. On April 20th, 2016, Judge Amy Totenberg hands down the sentence. 15 years in federal prison. 3 years of supervised release to follow. His Russian collaborator, Panin Gribletman, receives 9.5 years. Combined, nearly 25 years in federal time. For 2 men, a keyboard, and a piece of code. The architect of one of history's most damaging banking Trojans is now just an inmate number. Here's the unsettling truth. This case leaves behind one person, one laptop, one internet connection in a quiet room in Tizi. That was enough to threaten institutions with century-old reputations. Enough to bleed nearly $1 billion from a system the entire world trusts blindly every single day. Bendelladj is behind bars. But here's the part that should keep you up at night. SpyEye's source code didn't die with his arrest. It leaked. It spread. It still circulates in darker corners of the internet to this day. A ghost in the machine, waiting for the next architect to pick it up. The man is imprisoned. The weapon is immortal. Subscribe to Silicon Shadows. New cases every week. The truth is always stranger than the algorithm.